welcome to Lifelong Learning Education. I have a guest who I think is a beautiful woman inside and out, and she has the best hair in the industry. Her name is?
I'm Suzy Bills. I am an editor, I'm an author, I'm the president of the Latter-day Saint Publishing and Media Association.
Well, you said it so like that's not impressive stuff. That's very impressive. Yes, and so I invited you to speak to my audience for two reasons. One, because you are the president of the LDS PMA, and we're getting ready to have a big conference, and also because you are a professional editor. You also teach editing at BYU, but also do it. And so I've got viewers who are very interested in becoming authors or who are current authors, as well as other people that are interested in the whole editing process. But first, let's back up and tell us a little bit about the conference, what it is, who's invited, why it's amazing, and it is.
It is. Yeah, so it's for everybody in any kind of publishing role and any media role. So authors, editors, designers, typesetters, podcasters, bloggers, anybody in any kind of video role, production, audio, so any visual areas as well. So we really have a broad reach and trying to help everybody in these publishing and media industries, giving them opportunities to network with each other, to receive training, also just to receive support. It's, you know, publishing media, they can be pretty hard to work in sometimes, and there's lots of just chaos and influences that maybe aren't the best, and so just providing some support that we gain strength from. So at our conference, I really am impressed. Every year we put on an awesome conference, and I just think, how are we ever going to top that next year? And then we always do, and that's definitely the case. I am just amazed at what is coming together for this conference, and you know, Trina has had a role in that, and everybody, so many people working together to make this conference amazing. Our keynote speakers, our breakout session speakers, kind of like I was mentioning, we cater to so many audiences. So we have a track in editing and design, we have a track for writing, a track for marketing, for media, for more of the publishing side of things. And so we're catering to all these people and giving them opportunities to learn more in their field, to branch out. And so, you know, if an editor wants to get more into marketing or get more into the authorial side, they can go into those tracks. And so just an amazing opportunity. This year, something new that we've added, which we were getting just a great response to, is we're on October 24th, we're offering a pre-conference workshop. So they're deep dive 4-hour workshops on editing, on marketing, on writing, and podcasting. And so in those, people are just going to come out with some skills that they will be ready to apply. They're going to be very hands-on workshops. So great value there. I'm teaching the editing one. I'm really excited, and we have just had a lot of people sign up for these workshops. And so that's a really exciting thing that we're adding this year. And I think next year we'll just find more ways to add even more value. And so really exciting to see what is coming together with this conference.
You have done a beautiful job. I've been so impressed. I've been involved with the LDS PMA just for 2 years and have been blown away by the quality of speakers, the presenters, first off, and then just the other conference attendees. You get to rub shoulders with filmmakers, and if you have this desire to go into, you know, radio or whatever, or make magazines in a topic, you can meet these amazing people, and it's still not too late to buy tickets. They are still available online. Anybody's invited, and it's an incredible conference. I've just been so impressed. So good job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and just along with that, really it is not too late to register. And if you actually go onto ldspma.org and you sign up for a membership, which is free, then you'll get emails with discounts to the conference. So that, it's already a really good deal that we're offering on conference registrations, really lower than I've seen any other conferences, but we're still offering a discount on top of that. So it's really easy just to go onto our website, ldspma.org, sign up for the free membership, and then you'll get the emails telling you, okay, here's how you can save even more on this conference.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So now I have a ton of questions I want to ask you, but I'm going to be asking you, well, from two different angles. One, from the writer's perspective, since I'm an author, and then, of course, the editors who are watching this from the editor's perspective. So first of all, I posted on my Facebook page today, I'm going to be interviewing, what kind of questions should I ask? And people wanted to know, well, first of all, how did you get started in the industry?
I kind of fell into it while I was an undergrad at BYU. I started doing some research work for one of my history professors, and he was working on this article, and I just started editing it. And I'd always loved the words and reading, and I realized that, I really like this. And I started to get into editing classes at BYU, and I decided this is what I want to do. So I did some internships. I graduated, I did an internship for the church, and then I just looked for a full-time editing job. And so kind of that slow progression, but it was just that aha. I've always loved words. I've loved reading. I like writing. And this is just kind of an area that is fun for me. So, you get paid to read other people's work and help them improve it and make it as good as possible. So that's kind of my thought. This is for me.
Words are very powerful. There's actually a movie coming out this Friday. I do movie reviews on the side, and it's about this guy who loves Bruce Springsteen. And one thing that I loved about it is he's listening to the music, which is powerful, but as the audience, you get to see the words, the actual lyrics floating around his head. Do you see words like that floating around in your head?
I don't see them, but I hear them.
Really?
Yeah, I have a friend that, we'll just be talking, and this word that I might not have ever said before, but I've read it, and it just comes out in my conversation. I just think, wow, why did that one come out? But, I'll have all these words that I've worked with, seen them on the screen, years and years and years worth, and then they just pop up into my vocabulary that I'm speaking.
Would you say you're a grammar Nazi?
I'm not a grammar Nazi. I don't, I don't judge people for whether they know a specific rule or not, and I try to have a very soft hand in helping people learn the correct rules, but I don't think that the Nazi kind of way is really the most effective way to go about it.
I saw a funny meme on Facebook the other day, and it said, and I totally relate to this, it said, my life is a constant struggle between wanting to correct people's grammar and wanting to have friends.
Yeah. Anytime anybody learns that I'm an editor, they say, oh, are you judging my emails and my texts? I say, no, I'm not. And one reason is because if I did that, it would be overload for me. Like, I want to enjoy my life. And I don't want to be always editing every single word I see, or that's going to just not be good for me as well.
So when you decided that this was your passion, did it only come from an editing point, or was there a part of you that also wanted to create the words and create the content?
Yeah, I would say, when I was little, I thought it would be neat to write. But then the beginning of my career, I definitely focused on the editing. And as longer I went, I started thinking, I think I could do this writing side too. And so I started writing for some companies, blog posts, promotional content. A year ago, in May of 2018, my first book came out. I'm working on my second book, and then after I finish that one, I have another one that I'll start on pretty much right after that. So I
That's fantastic.
more of the creative, wanting to be on that other side as well.
Is it on store shelves? What's it called? Can we buy it?
Yeah, the first one is called Visions of Heaven. And it's it talks about this lady's experience. She has a really neat experience. And so I presented her story and then also incorporated some of the research that I've done that aligns with her experiences and just kind of inspirational experience. And so that was a really neat one, working with this person who being able to share her story. And she had tried to do that before, but she hadn't really known exactly how to go about it. So that was neat to collaborate with her to help her get this neat story out there.
Kind of a near-death experience?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
so that was the one that came out last year. Right now I'm working on a book for how to be a successful freelance editor. That's because I was a full-time freelance editor for several years before coming to BYU. And that's one of my areas of focus at BYU, is teaching students how to become freelance editors, because more and more the industry for editors, they are freelancers. There are fewer in-house positions. And so editors need to know how to navigate that freelance environment. And so I teach on it, and I just thought, there really isn't a book that I think really covers everything that editors need to know. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to create it. So that's
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so can you share 3 tips for future wannabe freelance editors?
Yeah, I would say the basic one. So a lot of times people ask me, well, where do I even start?
Yeah.
And especially in marketing, how do I get my first clients? And you just tell everybody you know. It doesn't have to be a pushy, you have to hire me, but you're just letting people know, yeah, I'm a freelance editor. So if you know of anybody, if you have any projects, feel free to reach out to me. Let people on social media know. Go to conferences, go to the LDSPMA conference and talk to people. There are lots of authors there. There are publishers there. Put it in your email signature. So just reach out to people. It's not pushy. So that would be one suggestion. Another one, I would say, always make sure that since you're running your own business, you won't have a company saying, hey, we're going to pay for you to do this training or to increase your skills in this area. So you need to do that on your own, and just make that a regular part of your work. So I am looking at different editing forum lists or discussions, blog posts, reading books, just to kind of see what are the trends and what are people asking and how are they addressing different editing issues. So just make training, your professional development, a regular part of your job so that you're always learning. And I think that makes you are able to offer more value to your clients. And it's just rewarding to continue, feel like you're progressing, you're not staying stagnant. The third one, I would say, always use a contract. Any project you're working on, it's just kind of a safeguard. It's the same idea as when you lock your door at night before going to bed. It's not because you think that the thief is going to come into your house every night and try to steal things, but it's just that precaution. And the contract is the same thing. It's just a precaution. It's protecting you. It's protecting your client. It's presenting yourself as a professional. You're taking this project seriously, and just having that contract will prevent a lot of issues from happening.
Wow, I loved how you just threw out 3 fantastic pieces of advice off the top of your head. That's fantastic. Really good advice. You mentioned trends, to be looking for trends. What trends do you actually see in the editing industry right now?
Yeah, well, one I mentioned is just freelancing. So more editors are running their own businesses And so having to go out and connect with publishers or connect with just companies. All companies need editors for their web content, for promotional information, for product manuals, that kind of thing. So just establishing connections, reaching out to people. Another one is definitely the online trend. And so understanding how we've shifted from more the traditional print media to a lot of online. So being comfortable with that, having skills in that area, knowing how editing for online content might vary somewhat from hard copy. Knowing how to, so ebooks are they're just out there. They're constant now. So learning how to help authors convert their books into ebooks. That's another important one. And so also just the trends in what language is considered appropriate. So different registers, the more formal versus more casual. Internet is definitely more casual. So learning what's the right tone and what usage is still considered. You need to use this in more formal, academic, traditional publishing, and what of those formal terms you would not want to use in other situations, or you'll come across as not knowing what's appropriate. So that's kind of a constant trend of just where are we now with different usage? Do we still need to distinguish between who and whom? And in formal, yes, we do. In
one of my pet peeves.
no.
I can't get it.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, the language, and I think that's one thing some people don't understand. The language is always evolving. It's a slow evolution, but looking at things that 50 years ago, usage that was considered appropriate or not, some of those things have changed today. So always just being aware, and that's one of the things, looking at just reading a lot, seeing what's published to see, okay, so these credible sources are considering this usage okay in this case, and participate in discussion forums of editors to see what they're saying is okay, and just kind of understanding that consensus.
That's really great advice. You know, and the whole whom thing. When you're just talking with friends casually or on the internet, as you mentioned, it's much more casual. And so I will often say it incorrectly because I don't want to come across as a total goober geek or something, but inside us cringing because it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I do the same thing. So there are some things that in my verbal speech, I will say the more common but not correct usage. And that's partly conscious because I don't want to sound so formal and to kind of make those words stand out. And I just want it to sound natural. And so understanding those different environments and what is appropriate for that environment. Yeah. So it's interesting. Even I do it.
I'm glad to hear that. All right. So I work with a lot of authors or wannabe authors, people that are trying to write a book. And the question always comes up, do I get an editor? How do I find one? How do I know who's good and who's not good?
Right.
So what advice would you have for authors who are trying to find an editor to work with?
Yeah, and that can be overwhelming because there really are so many editors out there, people who are promoting themselves as freelance editors. So there are a couple of tips to use. First, I would say in today's environment, if you are going to submit your, let's say, a book manuscript to a publisher, you need to have it edited beforehand. They have so many submissions coming in that you really need to have something of very high quality already, or they're just going to say, you know what, I don't have time to get this manuscript to the quality that it needs to be, so I can't take it on. So if you have somebody edit it and you've really refined it, then it's going to be much more likely that you'll get a publisher to pick you up. So that's kind of the environment. And the interesting thing is after a publisher does accept your manuscript, then it'll go through editing again. But it's just kind of that nature. But think of it this way, every time it's edited, it's going to be improved. And so you're just getting it higher quality, higher quality, higher quality. And I'll say, so when I published my first book. It still went through the editing process. The editors who worked on it, they still improved it. So even though I'm an editor, I teach other people how to be editors. I needed an editor as well, and I really appreciated receiving that. So I think everybody needs an editor, and how to find one who is a good fit for you. A couple things. Make sure it's really usually helpful if they have worked on content that's similar to yours. So if you're writing in, say, YA fantasy, usually it's going to be a good idea to work with an editor who has already edited YA fantasy, because they'll know what's standard, what's considered okay in that genre. So that's really helpful. Looking at their years of experience, usually the more experience they have, it's going to indicate they have more skills. Looking, just to ask for a list of what projects they've already worked on. And then look at some of those published books to see, okay, do I like how this turned out? And that's not to say, sometimes editors work on books and then the authors revise a lot after. So sometimes you won't necessarily, what the editor's done won't always be obvious in a published book, but usually you are going to see that. So if you read the book and you are impressed with how it turned out and you don't notice grammatical errors, that kind of thing, that's a good sign. If the book has a lot of issues in it, then that could be a sign that editor is not a good fit for you. You can ask the editor for a sample edit. There's a lot of debate in the editing field of whether that's okay. Some editors will offer to provide samples. Some don't want to because it's their time. They want to be paid for that. So you could offer to pay for a page sample edit. You can also just ask them to send you a sample of their editing on something. All editors really should have something that they have edited that they can show other people their editing work on. And also expect, if they are going to give you an editing sample, it's going to be short, maybe a page long. And that really should be enough for you to get an idea. Besides just kind of the editing skills, how do you feel in interacting with that person? Are they responding promptly to you, say within 24 hours, or do you have to follow up with them, get on their case to respond to you? Are they polite? Are they encouraging? I think that makes a big difference. I've had lots of people tell me, well, I had this one author tell me that at the time I kind of didn't like it, but I understand. I edited his manuscript and he said, Suzy, I really appreciate what you did. And he said, I appreciate your editing, but I could have gotten anybody to do that. What I really appreciated with you is that you just cheered me on through this whole process, and it was a daunting process. And working with you, it made it feel like it was possible. And so that was just kind of a epiphany for me of editors really need to do that with their authors. Authors are usually pretty vulnerable, and we're second guessing ourselves, and is my content really good enough? Are people going to like it? And so they need that encouragement, and editors really can provide that. And so just how do you feel working with your editor? You want it to be a really good relationship where even you become friends, and does that seem possible from your initial interactions with that editor?
Wow, that's really great advice. And we always hear the drama, the stories about editors and authors battling it out and clashing. Yeah. So that's really a great tip, because a lot of it is personality as well. So what percentage would you say, when you're editing an author's book, is grammar versus content and maybe moving things around, and also cheerleading?
Yeah. And it really depends on each manuscript and what the author has asked me to do. So sometimes they really are asking me just to work on the grammar, and I don't need to worry about the organization, the flow, kind of the content. Sometimes they want me to get really down in there and get everything. And so it really depends on the author, and some authors need a little bit more of that deep down work than others do on the writing. So there's always, usually I will always see both. Even if I'm not working on both, I will see areas that both can be improved. So I would say maybe about 50-50 grammar to content. Encouragement, I think encouragement can come through a lot in a few ways. So just in the ways that you phrase your comments in a file. So I might tell the author, I'm not sure the readers will agree with this or will understand it. So how can we revise to make it clearer, to make your argument stronger so people at least will see where you're coming from? And maybe they want to agree with it, but they'll say, okay, I understand that logic, that reasoning. So just, phrasing this, we're a team. I'm saying, how can we do this? And suggesting, and not saying, this is a really dumb idea, you need to fix it, or you're going to lose your readers. So just how you phrase things, and it seems like a really simple thing, but I've seen a lot of editors, especially young editors, who they haven't quite gotten that yet. So really, something that really changed how I approach things is I had finished editing a document, and I was just reading through comments one by one, and I realized I sound demanding. Change this, fix this, you should do this. And after that, I always phrase things as consider and asking please, and just how about we think about this? And so all just suggestions. So that's one way. Another way is just in your emails. I think it's really pretty simple, but being positive in your emails and saying, hey, I can tell that you really have worked a lot on this. And I know that my revision is going to look like there's a lot more work to do, but you can do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing that next revision and being able to help you refine it even more. So always just be encouraging, be positive, and, tell them, I hope you're having a great day. And I hope, if you know a little bit about them or their family or whatever. So one of my past clients, his daughter's getting married. So I'd ask him about how are wedding plans going and that kind of thing, and just showing that you care about the person. And it's not just, I'm working with you so that I can get paid. No, I really care about you. And I hope you're doing well in all aspects of your life.
I'll bet you're such a fantastic teacher. I can tell that you're a nurturing editor and that you're sharing this advice with your students. I would love to sit in your class someday. So here's a question, and I don't know if you teach them anything about this, but I've had editors who will write their comments kind of like you said, a little bit abrasive in the side margin, and it's all in red. So the little school child in me feels like I'm going to get an F. Do you like the color or font of your comments?
Yes. I use purple.
There you go.
Yeah, I avoid red. And I think, just even little things like that. And so that I think it is just the little things that really can add up into how somebody feels. So I use purple pens for comments, and just, letting them know things that, here are things that you did well. And I think that's so important to point out those things. We want that positive reinforcement, not just, well, you need to fix this, you need to continue working on this concept, but this. And so sometimes I'll make a comment of, okay, here's this issue that we need to work on, and later I see where they did it well, and I'll point out, here's an example of where you did it really well. So let's use this as a model for these other places that we need to get to the same kind of quality here.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I've had editors who just rah, 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 rah. And then I love it when they'll throw in and they'll say, oh, what a fantastic idea, or oh, that was such an inspiring thought, or how did you ever think of this amazing thing? Like, oh, I'm not all terrible after all.
Yeah, I think that's exactly. Really
So what advice do you have for writers as they're creating content to avoid some of the common traps maybe that authors usually need help with the whole editing process? In other words, how can you help an author be able to stand back and look at it through an editor's eyes?
Yeah, I think one thing is just first get your ideas out on paper. So get them out, and often I wouldn't worry about editing too much as you go. But after you've finished, definitely go through it. I've had some authors who have finished writing and then they send it to me without ever looking at it. And that's when, it's a lot more work on my side, and either we have a lot more back and forth, or it just can't get to the quality that it needs to be because it needed a lot of help. And so authors, they really can improve things a lot if you'll just write it. Give yourself a little bit of a break because you're probably, by the time you're done, you're a little burnt out about it and you want a break. So take one. And then read through it again. Make comments, make revisions. Have other people, have beta readers, have friends, have family read through it. Give them their feedback and consider it. Decide whether to revise anything, but do several rounds of revising before you send it to the editor. You'll notice a lot of things that, how did I even write this? Or this doesn't even make sense to me. And you'll figure it out. And so you're getting a little bit better quality so that when you send it to the editor, it's cleaner and the editor can do a lot more with it than if they're just trying to figure out what a certain sentence means. So one is just the basic revising, getting feedback on it. Another thing, sometimes it can really help if you read backwards. So start with the final paragraph and just read that for kind of grammar and sense. And then go to the second to last paragraph. And because you're not thinking about, okay, how is everything flowing, but you're thinking more about the grammar. So that can be a good way to self-edit. Another way is just to change the font. So if you're usually typing in Times New Roman, change it to a sans serif font, maybe Calibri. And just the visual change helps you see things differently and helps you pick out those things. Other suggestions, just go on. There are lots of great blogs out there on writing and specific to a specific genre. So read some of those. See some of the most commonly made errors in that genre, most common errors in grammar, and make yourself a list of, okay, this is when I should use a comma, this is when I shouldn't, or who versus whom, or whatever. And so you don't have to get everything, but if you just have kind of your list of top 5 things I'm really going to try to focus on to get those issues, just doing that, you can make it a lot better. And the next time you add 5 more things to your list. So you're slowly building and slowly incorporating more of these rules, principles into your writing. And that's how you continue to improve your writing.
Love it. Another tip that I've used is to actually read what I've written out loud.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If it flows, or if it doesn't flow, or if I've repeated a word twice, I'll be reading it out loud.
Right. Yeah.
So have you ever used any of these Dragon type of softwares where it's a voice activated, where, for example, I know an author and she has such bad fibromyalgia in both hands.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't type, she's speaking.
Yeah.
Have you worked and edited someone's writing who did their voice writing?
I not full books, but there have some shorter things that you can tell it was via voice. And there's some funny things that come up sometimes because voice recognition software has gotten pretty good, but there's still some times where it misses the mark on what somebody has said. So there will be some funny things that come out, and you just have to realize, okay, that was the voice recognition, and this is really what the word was supposed to be. But so, I do know as well some authors that's their standard method for whatever reason. Some, they just feel like if they're just trying to type out ideas, they have a really hard time doing that. But if they're just speaking as if they were telling a story to somebody else, it comes a lot easier. And so that's how they'll do it. They'll speak their story and have it typed out with voice recognition, and that's the way that they start. And then from there, they go and start editing or refining. Yeah, it's just cool with so many tools out there. We have so many options for writing and for editing, and so it's exciting. And that's another way to keep aware of different trends and how are these trends affecting our roles in them.
Do you have any favorite, all-time favorite resources for editors or wannabe editors?
I would say this is macros. Macros are just little computer steps that can automate processes. And so you can use macros, for example, in Microsoft Word. That's not really, it's a tool, not necessarily a resource. The resource that comes with it is Paul Beverly's macro book, and he has over 500 macros in this just online. You can go to his website and download all these macros, and that can really automate a lot of editing steps. It also just helps editors be more accurate. For example, you can run this one macro that will tell you if a paragraph has a quotation, opening quotation, but doesn't have a closing quotation. And then I can look through it and say, okay, where does this closing quotation go? And so it's just a way for editors to make sure that they are catching more errors. And because no editor is perfect, we're all going to miss things. And so using macros really can help you be a better editor. So I would say Paul Beverly's macros. And if anybody just searches for Paul Beverly macros, that macro book will come up.
Okay.
In the results. And so that's an awesome resource. Besides that, there's a copy editing list. And so if you just search for CE-L, that'll come up. That's just a discussion forum for editors, and lots of great discussions come up there. People talk about tools, talk about job opportunities, ask questions about the business of editing, the mechanics of editing, anything related to editing. And so that discussion forum, or just ones on Facebook, somewhere, they're just I would say an essential resource that editors should be involved in.
You are such a wealth of information. I love it. So I know you've got to get going. And so if you want to learn more from Suzy, you are welcome to register for the online conference at ldspma.org, and or go sneak into her class where she teaches everyone.
Guests are always welcome.
If I lived in Utah, I would totally do that. Awesome. Anyway, all right, so one final question I like to ask all of my guests at Lifelong Learning Education. All of the online courses that I build are designed to help people get to that next level self. So what do you personally do to become better a little bit every day?
Yeah, goals. So I always have goals, things that I'm working toward. And some are shorter term, some are longer term. And so if you have those longer term ones, make short ones that will help you get to that long-term goal. But always have things that you're working toward. Me personally, I really get a sense of satisfaction from feeling I'm progressing. And so, but I think that's important for everybody. We want to feel like we are moving forward, and just having goals, whether it's something small or a bigger one, to work toward. And then you can look back and say, yeah, I did that. That was really cool. And but just having, and it could be simple ones, is like, I'm going to read one blog post a week about writing or about editing. But just always have something you're working toward, and it just culminates into big things and great opportunities and a lot of just self-satisfaction that way.
That's absolutely fantastic advice. Suzy, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us, and for teaching us. I'm really excited about this conference, and I'm going to try to peek in as often as I can to the classes when you're teaching, because you have such great advice. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really loved it, and thank you for all you do. You have just great resources out there, so I appreciate all you do.
So where can people find you other than sneaking into your class? Can you do a website or a Facebook page or something?
So I would say that the best ways to get in hold of me are just on my LinkedIn profile. And so that's linkedin.com/in/Suzy Bills, which is SUZYBILLS. My personal website, well, my business website is also somewhere you can go. And that's editingbysuzy.yolasite.com. And so those are the best two ways to get a hold of me. And I love hearing from people, and I'm always happy to answer questions. So, if anybody ever has questions about just editing, how to get into it, about how to freelance, you're always welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide guidance. So.
Well, thank you, Suzy. Be sure to
You're
subscribe
welcome.
at Lifelong Learning Education and go to the website lifelonglearningeducation.com, and you can check out some of the online courses. I'm currently building one for authors and wannabe authors, so stay tuned for that. You can sign up for the newsletter, and I'll give you more information about that one and a coupon as soon as it's ready to launch. Anyway, thank you, Suzy. Don't you guys just love Suzy? I told her she's beautiful inside and out. All right, bye.
Thanks, Trina. Bye.